have been bringing to you in the last few weeks. I just thought a nice way to round it up will be on this competency, which is about evoking awareness. And here I just add say less and ask more. Say less, ask more. And this is what I will cover more or less in the course of the next 60 minutes. So saying less and asking more. Again, like I said, in the old core competency model for ICF, you find that competencies 6, 7, and 8 is what has been encapsulated into the new competency model number 7, which is about evoking awareness. And so evoking awareness, ICF says it's about asking questions to elicit new insights from your client. Evoking awareness is about sharing observations from, that you notice in your clients that will support new learning for them. Evoking awareness is also being able to support your client to be able to reflect and for them to be able to reframe as well. And of course, it's about using tools and techniques. So I will share some of those tools and techniques with you this evening. But as a student of language arts, let me start by defining the word evoke. It's a verb, and simply put, it's about bringing a feeling. It's about bringing a memory or bringing out a picture in the mind of the other person. So it's about raising your client's awareness level, and I dare say even your awareness as a coach as well, right? And I love this quote from John Whitmore in his famous book that I hope every coaching student in your early days of certification would have gone through his book, Coaching for Performance. This quote says, "I'm able to control only that which I'm aware of. That which I am unaware of controls me." And I love this last line. He says, awareness empowers me. Awareness empowers me. So John Whitmore is one of the forefathers or gurus when it comes to coaching. So if he says awareness empowers, and this core competency number 7, compelling us as coaches to do things differently in the sense that we should evoke awareness. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, why I'm bringing you this competency this evening. But for you to evoke awareness, I just want to ensure that we're mindful of the coaching capabilities we have. I believe the first coaching capability anybody should have is a sense of self-awareness as well. I always say you can't give what you don't have. If you don't have self-awareness, it will be difficult to evoke it in your client. So self-awareness, listening skills, great listening skills, but it's more than just great. I mean, how great is great? It's about listening effectively, or what some people call attentive listening, and so on. There's this chart I love, and I love to show a lot of my clients. It's called the Wobble Zone. And I believe our role as coaches is for any client you're dealing with, whether formally, whether informally. And I dare say even for line managers, if you make this Wobble Zone part of your rhythm, in the sense that you know that when it comes to learning over a period of time, oftentimes people start from what we call unconscious incompetence. In other words, they don't know what they don't know, right? And they're in fact looking to you to tell them, because many people believe that's what they're paying you for as a coach. But obviously your role is not to tell them, but to ensure that you're waking their senses to be able to reflect and draw within their inner recesses to come up with answers or solutions by themselves. So it's about moving people or our clients from unconscious incompetence through conscious incompetence. So they're saying, I know that I don't know, right? And then through evoking awareness still, you're moving them to what is called conscious competence. In other words, they're saying, I know that I'm good, and now I understand why. But the whole mark for you as a coach is where you're moving your client to unconscious competence, unconscious competence. In other words, they're saying, I know that I'm good, and I don't think about it anymore. I remember in the days, especially for us as women, when we started driving, driving for us, I mean, yes, we move through unconscious incompetence, depending on whoever taught you to drive. Well, I hope it's not your husband that taught you to drive, but whoever taught you to drive, in any case, you would have moved through these stages. So much so that now, when you're driving, you're dengue posing. What do I mean by that? Most likely you have one hand, your left hand on the windowsill, and then just one hand on the steering. You're doing some things, you're driving, and you're not even thinking of whether you should press the brake first or the accelerator or whatever. So please bear this wobble zones in mind. And so if we're to move our clients forward in a way that evokes them, one of the ways we've learned is through powerful questions. And what is a powerful question, therefore? A powerful question is about bringing insights. A powerful question is one that enables you to probe the coachee's inner thoughts, and so that you are able to evoke the coachee, him or her, to self-discovery, or to self-discover their own core issues and underlying beliefs. So when we use powerful questions, it's really where you as a coach or line manager or expert in communication, and I dare say in coaching, would want to combine a number of skills, especially deep listening skills or intense curiosity. Many of you know that saying, curiosity kills the cat. And really, it was curiosity that brought me into coaching. It was like being a student of language arts and did my master's in speech communication, organizational communication. It was really about, so what's this coaching thing? So it's that same curiosity that will kill any cat that you should bring to every coaching situation, where you're curious, always curious at any coaching meeting what your client is going to present. You're curious when you're having any meeting, regardless of whether you know this person from Adam or not. How are they going to show up, and how are you going to show up? How present are you at this meeting? Because you need to be fully present. You need to be in that state of being fully present to be able to bring out curiosity in your client. And so it's through this intense curiosity, you're able to form powerful questions that can accomplish the outcome you want to elicit in them. So as a coach, you should be able to create paradigm shifts and possibilities for your coachees. It's creating those aha moments where you ask a question, and in fact, to some of those coachees or clients will say, you know, that is like, whoa. So for you, that's a sign that it's going deep and they're really going into their inner recesses. Let me give you some examples of powerful questions. So asking and saying, what are you trying to make happen in the next 3 months? What's the most important decision you're facing? And what's keeping you from making it? What area under your responsibility are you most satisfied with? And then when they answer, flip it around. What area under your responsibility are you least satisfied with? Oftentimes with this question, people are eager to show off. I mean, most satisfied, yeah, it's like talking about their strengths. But when it comes to least satisfied, again, you hear that, The next question, what part of your responsibilities are you avoiding right now? Notice if you're following the trend of my conversation or my questioning. So they talked about most satisfied, and then you flip it, you ask least satisfied, right? And then you probe further. You say, what part of your responsibilities are you avoiding right now? The next question, what do you aspire to during this crisis? I mean, so everybody has over glorified COVID-19 as far as I'm concerned. For some, it's become a mini god. And so in my coaching sessions these days, I try and ask questions to around COVID-19. COVID-19 for me is a crisis. And for every crisis, like my mother used to say, this one too shall pass. Or my former boss in Coca-Cola used to say, I've seen this movie before. So I ask a question, like, what do you aspire to during this crisis? And then when they respond, I can ask a follow-up question. What do you aspire to after this crisis? I remember in the early days of the lockdown, of course, in terms of checking out about their feelings, their emotions, I would start the session by asking, so how are you dealing with this disruption? I mean, COVID-19 is a disruption. It's disrupted the whole world. So how are you dealing with this disruption? Or I can say, how are you dealing with this uncertainty, right? So that question, what do you aspire to do during this crisis and after this crisis? And some may ask, what do you mean by that? And you say, well, there must be life after COVID-19, surely, right? The next question, how have you buried or detonated crisis energy in the past few weeks? This has been my, let me say, time bomb question in this period. I'll say that again slowly. How have you buried or detonated crisis energy in the past few weeks? Now, I use this for a client because he started off the session ranting and raving about home, his wife, his children, you know, and yes, coaching is about suspending your judgments, all right, but I couldn't help but feel that this particular client had either his wife or someone within his household or one of his children, right? The energy he was exuding, and when I say energy, I'm sure you all understand what I mean, was rather catabolic. And in coaching, it's about bringing out the good energy, the anabolic energy, rather than the catabolic energy. So I asked him, how have you buried or detonated crisis energy in the last few weeks or in the past few weeks? And that brought up a can of reflection and awareness in terms of how disruptive and destructive he's been to people at home and to close family members. Another question is, what key relationships do you want to protect? Again, this was one of my follow-up questions with this client because obviously we're locked down. In the past, I would imagine in a relationship at home, because for some of the things I'm involved in, I note sadly that domestic violence rates have gone up during this lockdown. And so, although I needed to suspend my judgment, right, but the way this client was going, I just felt I needed him to come to a heightened measure of awareness. So after he answered the previous question about detonating crisis energy or bearing crisis energy and then erupting like a volcano, right? I asked him, what key relationships do you want to protect during this lockdown? And it was like, you know, so he was thinking deeply, and it was amazing the kind of responses he was able to come up with and the kind of goals we then embarked upon. Another question is, what would make you feel proud, even if this crisis ends badly for you or your business? So from the news we've been hearing, some people have been laid off globally and even locally as well. Jobs have been followed, you know, and all that. So this was with a client who had an SME client, you know. So what would make you feel proud, even if this crisis ends badly for you or for your business? This kind of question is about evoking what are the next steps. I mean, come rain or shine, how will I come up? What will I do next, right? And then, of course, this last question, if you look back in 1 year, if you look back in 6 months, if you look back in 2 years or 3 years, what will make you feel you managed this crisis very well? So don't let us underestimate the power in having powerful questions. There's this model that's called the precision model. And I learned it during my first coaching certification. And it talks about generalizers, challenging the block, verbs, comparators, nouns, and then some of the rules. The first one, and I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about this, are generalizations. Are you listening to generalizations when your client is talking? Are you listening to labelings? How are they labeling themselves? A good example of generalization is when your client says, oh, I'm always late. And then I say, always? Or they say, oh, I never can make it. And I say, never, right? And the way I say it, the tone I say it, you know, oftentimes it's almost like a jolt, you know, it's like, what do you mean? I just say again, never, always. And then the other one is about rules, certain rules around must or should. The one I'd like to point out this evening is about the word should. When your client is saying, I should have done this, I should have been promoted, and things like that, I will say something like, should is past tense, you know. And they look at me as if, say what, you know? And then I say it again in a it's past tense. And what they then say is, what do you mean by that? And I then throw it back. It's like, what do you think I'm talking about? Or what do you think I mean? Should, I should have, I should have. Should is past tense. And coaching, what we're doing, what you and I are doing in coaching, or what any parent or leader or manager is doing, is trying to move people forward. Should doesn't move you forward. Should is about the past. And so you really want to bring their attention to move away from sentences with those words so that you're moving them forward. Another good use in evoking awareness for us as coaches is to use metaphors. A metaphor in coaching is a figure of speech. It creates powerful, rapid learning by linking what is unfamiliar or novel with what the client already knows. So a metaphor is such a powerful tool to cut through the clutter of communication out of a lot of words. Now, of course, you won't catch those metaphors if you're not listening attentively. What are you listening for? The client's language. What kind of words are they using? Are they using visual words, right? Or are they talking in terms of auditory, they're using auditory words. Which part of the senses are they using in talking during the coaching session? So let me give you some examples that I found recently. The client says, oh, I'm working so hard just to keep my head above water. So this statement not only gives the coach a clue that this person is feeling weary, they're struggling to survive amidst all the various webinars, meetings, you know, but they're also painting a verbal picture. And this provides the language the client might be searching for, right? So I can then say to the client, say more about that. And they say, what about? I say, this feeling of working hard and keeping your head above water, you know? And then, of course, it brings a measure of self-awareness. Another example is, oh, I feel backed into a corner. This metaphor, they offer may or may not have the potential for uncovering something essential, but I will ask, so what does it feel like to be backed in a corner? I'm sure the common one is when people say, oh, I can see the light in the tunnel. It's much similar to this. I then say, tell me more about that light. Other examples, I've heard a client say, it's like a dance between you and your, I mean, they talk about what's going on, or I asked my team members to do this and do that, you know. And then I can say something like, it's like a dance between you and your direct reports. What type of dance are you doing with your team? And then a follow-up question, in the dance, which role do you tend to gravitate to most often? Or for somebody that talked about, I know he's a sprinter and he prides himself, you know, is it 6-pack or 5-pack or whatever pack they say about men, you know? He prides in his muscles, you know, and all that. And recently he says, oh, my workload, it's more like a marathon than a sprint. So, of course, I said, what's the difference you're experiencing between a marathon and a sprint? And he lit up because, I mean, this is somebody who says on Saturdays, the sprint 10 kilometers and things like that. And my attitude is, now, you know. And another follow-up question is, if you were preparing for this situation, so he was preparing for a board meeting 2 weeks ago, as if it were a marathon versus a sprint, how would they differ? And that really opened him up and gave him that room to be, freed him up to be able to move himself forward. I heard somebody who is a gardener. She prides herself in her garden, in her flowers, and she's retired, but she's now into a Greek. He said, you know, I mean, this whole thing is like planting seeds. And I said, oh, interesting. What types of seeds are you planting? And she says, oh, no, I'm not talking about physical seeds. I said, oh, really? Oh, well, yes, I thought I heard you. You said it's like, you know. So a follow-up question is, what are you wanting to grow? What seeds have sprouted? Which seeds are in need of watering? What seeds are you wanting to nurture? And I can go on and on about metaphors. Another technique I'd like to share with you is this questioning framework I came across recently. And it's so simple, you know, it's like every coach must know about the GROW model. And so this questioning framework reminds me of the GROW model. But remember, when we use the GROW model doesn't need to follow in a linear fashion in terms of the G, the goal, the reality, the options or the obstacles, you know, and then the willingness or the will. So this framework starts with current circumstance. And so what's happening with you right now? Tell me what exactly is going on in your life right now? And then the emotions is about how do you feel when you think about this lockdown? Or how do you feel when you think about all the inherent losses with your business? And then the next thing is about desires. What would you like to see happening? And then, of course, you have to check out values. And so a good question for values is, what is it that's so important to you in all of what you're describing to me? And then, of course, their thoughts are very important as well. This is bringing my NLP into practice. So it's about, the question is, what goes through your head right at this moment? And then, of course, the behavior. What new habits do you need to achieve your goal? So again, this question, this framework resonates for me because as an HR person, my simple way of defining engagement is about how people think, how people feel, and how they act. Now, another tool I'd like to share with you is this one. It's called the Cartesian Questions. The Cartesian Questions is used to open up the mind of your client, especially when they're struggling to make decisions. And it's a tool for you to use as well. So practice it first on yourself before you practice it on a client. And it's about, first of all, as you read through the questions, take care to notice the subtle differences in each of the questions, because the questions, although they sound simple, you must absolutely love, you must love using these techniques. I mean, and I love using them because it makes the client think in a creative way. It provides clarity, and also it provides a new perspective. So looking at the 4 quadrants, I mean, the first question is when the client defines a decision or an action in a clear statement. For example, I want to quit my job and start my own business, you know. So it's what won't happen if I quit my job and started my own business? What won't happen if I quit my job and started my own business? Or what would happen if I did quit my job and started my own business, right? And then the next one is, what won't happen if I didn't quit my job and start my own business? And then the last one is, what will happen if I don't quit my job and start my own business? I won't spend too much time on this, but again, explore it. As a diehard of NLP, I love presuppositions. Presuppositions are simply what they are. They are presuppositions. You presuppose. And I believe, I can't remember now, NLP postulates that there's 16 presuppositions for us as coaches. I'm just highlighting 5 here. And for those who don't know what NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. I'm a student of language arts, but coming into coaching as a profession, this was one of the first certification programs I delved into, because the neuro is about our thoughts, the linguistics is about the words people use, and of course the programming is about our behavior and how does it all work together in terms of what the client is saying, how they show up, their concepts, and then even the words they use. And so the first presupposition I like is, depending on the client and where we are, what they're saying, you know, I can just stop and say, you know, the mind and body affect each other. And they'll say, and I'll just say it again. The mind and body affect each other. And I keep quiet. And some of them just jump on and almost like give their own interpretation of it. And I then throw it back at them and say, so how is this, what you're saying, how is it showing up in this situation? Another presupposition is the statement: people respond to their experience, not to reality itself. The map is not the territory. And many times I've heard coaches just say the map is not the territory. Another presupposition is accept the person and change the behavior. Accept the person and change the behavior. I remember a client who just went on and on. He always lays blame on a particular person within his team. There was never anything that team member could do that was right. And in one of our coaching sessions, I said, how about a shift? And I said, I kept quiet, and he said, oh, what shift? And I said, how about accepting the person so that you can change the behavior? And he was like, you know. So for me, it's one of those moments, although you can't really do it, where it's like, yeah, I've hit a bull's eye, you know. And he kept quiet for so long. And he then started talking about, oh, that's true, you know. Another presupposition I like is there are no failures, only feedback. There are no failures, only feedback. And of course, recently I hear people talk about failing successfully or failing forward, right? There are no failures, only feedback. And this last one I put here, there are no resistant clients, only inflexible communicators. And of course, another technique is hypothetical questions using the what if. The what if. I mean, what if, again, is like enabling your client to think further or to almost like turn things around so that you can evoke more awareness for them to be able to move on, right? So if you consider a client who's working on a company project to substantially increase sales and has come up against a real block, so the what if questions they come in handy. So it's like, what would you do if money was not your object? I mean, remember, this is somebody who, for his projects, to substantially, his role is to increase sales, right? So I say, what would you do if money were no object? And he can respond by saying, well, I don't know. I really don't know. Honestly, I mean, I just can't meet my target, and this COVID-19 is even making it worse, you know. I can ask, so what if you knew the answer? What would it be? Or I could say, what if this obstacle did not exist? What would you do? So everybody is using COVID-19 as an excuse. And it's like, I mean, oh yeah, say what? For real? Wasn't there life before COVID-19? Wouldn't there be life after COVID-19? Another question, a hypothetical question is, what if you were performing at your best? What would you do? And then this last one, what if you didn't have to live with the consequences? What would you do? I mean, consequences being not meeting his target. Not meeting his target means not getting his sales bonus, you know, and things like that, which would affect so many other plans, like she had said. And so as I come to round up this session, these are important quotes for us, because at times during coaching sessions, I throw up these quotes because, again, it's about, depending again on the client and the maturity of the client, it's about evoking that awareness further. I love this one. I say this one often. There are 7 days in the week, and some day isn't one of them. So during COVID-19, a lot of people, when I'm coaching, they say, yes, all these free online courses. Yes, I'll download it soon. I'll download it soon. I must make sure I download it soon. And I can just throw out this quote and say, there are 7 days in the week, and someday or sometime soon isn't one of them. Another one I like is, there are 2 types of pain in this world: pain that hurts you and pain that changes you. Pain that hurts you, where you're just saying, ouch, or pain that changes you. So in this COVID-19, I say to my clients, never let a good crisis go to waste. And some may say, oh, is COVID a good crisis? And I say, it depends. It depends on how you look at it, right? And this other quote, words are energy, use them wisely. So for us as coaches, and with this session, I've thrown out a lot to you. So please use some of these tools wisely, and don't cut and paste these questions, but make them relevant depending on who you're coaching and the context, because it's about making your client more reflective. And never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. This one I throw out when it comes to work-life balance, you know. And this one I love as well. What if I told you 10 years from now, your life would be exactly the same? Doubt you'd be happy. So why are you afraid of change? You know, some have responded by saying, I reject it in Jesus' name. And I just, in a rather poised, and you know me, I love English, and I blow my phone very well. So I then bring on my Queen's English accent, you know. What if I told you 10 years from now, your life would be exactly the same? And somehow it just jumps them out. They forget about I reject it in Jesus' name, and they come alive and spring into action. So in closing, I just want to remind you that depending on who's listening, whether you're a coach, whether you're a line manager, whether you're a parent, whatever role you find yourself, but especially to my colleagues in the profession, coaches should only speak in a purposeful way. Remember, the coaching session is not about you. So questions that evoke awareness need to be short, they need to be open-ended. And of course, you know that in coaching, we say silence is golden. Great coaches use silence very well. And be silent and attentive. Not that you're silent and the coachee or the client is thinking and your pen is tapping like this, or you're looking or humming a song or that kind of a thing. Be fully present and attentive to what is going on in terms of the body language of the coachee. Many times I notice in moments of silence, some of my clients, they're near tears. How do I know? Their eyes water or they go red. So I know, yes, I'm hitting something at that point in time. Be comfortable also with a pause. You may ask, what's the difference between a pause and a silence? A pause obviously is shorter. than a silence. And then only the truly self-transcendent coach can propel clients to illuminate new insights. Now, transcendent coach. Transcendency, yeah, it comes with a lot of experience. It's not a guru Maharaji thing, you know. This really comes with a lot of experience where you're going beyond the here and now, and it's mindfulness at its height. And then this last remark is to say, follow the client's train of thought, because it helps you generate more powerful questions that will evoke awareness. And remember, the coaching session is not about you, it's about your client. And any conversation you're in, whether you're mentoring, I mean, I do a lot of mentoring, but I use coaching questions in my mentoring. So it's not about you. It's about your mentee as well. It's about evoking awareness so that they can look into their inner recesses and come to solutions that would move them forward, or actions that will move them forward. Ta-da! So that brings me to the end. I hope I kept to time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, TA. Wow, you have even evoked and provoked our minds as well. Thank you so much. And you've actually given us quite a number of tools to really create that evoking of awareness for our clients. And I agree with you that yes, it is all about the client. But I like the fact that what you have taught us is how to illuminate new insights. And to get our clients thinking deeper and reflecting more, so that we can get out more from our clients. And the only way we can do that is by, giving and, asking those very powerful questions. Thank you very much for the tools that you have actually given us, because it's very important about how you ask your questions, because as a coach, it's all about the questions. You can get the most out of your clients based on how you ask the question. And as simple as some questions may be, like you've said, short, open-ended, short, open-ended questions, and making sure that we are attentive and present, listening to body language and using silence as well. This is a great tool to bring out the best in our clients. And many times, I think clients are not even aware of themselves. I think it's the questions that we ask that actually bring those insights. And you find that at the end of your coaching sessions, some of the clients will actually tell you that you've actually really stirred up some things that they even didn't know about themselves. So thank you so much once again, TA, for that. We're going to use this opportunity to allow for questions. I'm going to allow Yinka to moderate those questions. People have the opportunity to ask or write them in the chat panel. So over to you, Yinka, and TA, once again, thank you very much for those thought-provoking coaching tools that you gave us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, TA. Thank you very much, Janet. So now, do we have questions, comments, concerns? Now is the time. If you have a question, please can you raise your hand so that we can let you speak. And if you feel more comfortable just not saying anything, you can just type your questions in the chat segment and we'll read out your question.
So Yinka, I've got a question. I can't find the raise hand icon.
Hello?
Yeah, Yinka, I've got a question. I can't find the raise hand icon.
Okay. Okay, so no problem. All right, go ahead, please, Adar.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, TA, for that presentation and all this. Thank you. So I'd like to find out, TA, you spoke about the role of questioning, which is brilliant. You spoke about the role of silence, also fantastic. Could you please just touch on sensing? Now, you know, when coachee, when you're in your coaching conversation and you said when the coachee sighs or their body language, you know, their head drops, or, you know, you sort of look at the way their eyes shift, you know, what's the role of sensing in evoking awareness?
That's a very good question. So sensing is part of that. It's akin to that word intuitive, your intuitive self, you know. So sensing is depending on the body language, and especially, you know, when we're coaching, when it comes to body language, it's really about the upper part of the body. It's about what's going on here, right? And if what's going on here, that's their face, is also complemented with either tapping the table, or they're shaking their legs, or they're nodding and it's like, So obviously for me, I'm sensing, wow, I've really hit something hard. So I'm thinking, how deep a well have I hit here, you know? And should I go deeper, or should I just stop here? So sensing, a lot of sensing, of course, depends on what you're observing, and depending also on the next statement that the client comes up with or elicits. And let me just say again, if intuition is coming into place here, right? Be careful also as coaches. If we're sensing something and this person is really going deep, don't short circuit them. That's part of the sensing as well. Reject and say, are you here? Or are you there? Or what's going on in your mind right now, or something like that, you know? Just allow them be. And someone may ask, how long is a silence? Again, it depends on the client. As long as that client wants, that frees them enough to be able to unearth whatever it is that's going on in their minds. So sensing requires, it's a feedback to us to allow the coachee or the client to go into their inner resources further.
Thank you so much. Very fun. That was brilliant. And for the benefit of non-coaches on the call, please join ICF and learn more about how to use all these powerful tools. TA, thank you. Wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a question here from Olubusola, and it says, I'm still a student coach in training. And when you center clients, can that evoke awareness?
Okay. Well, of course, it depends on the set of the client. So centering, depending on how you do it, again, can evoke a measure of awareness. Centering can be done at the beginning, or it can even be done in the middle of a coaching session where perhaps the coachee is between the ocean and the deep blue sea, you know, like the waves you can see behind me here by my beachfront in Florida, right? So you may decide that you just say time out and decide you want to center the coachee. And of course, before you do that, I hope you know you have to take permission. Again, it depends on how your relationship is with that client as well. So yes, I mean, I would say in a way, yes, it's a way of evoking awareness, because there are times I've done a centering. I've done a centering session and I just asked, so how does that make you feel? And it's like, wow, I feel unlocked. And then I say, oh, tell me more. I just feel unlocked. And I remember once I said, who's holding the key? You know, I said, oh, I didn't realize I had the key all along. You know, and she said, well, so why couldn't I open the door, you know, but now I can open the door, you know. So yes, very good question. It depends on how you use it. Use it purposefully, and remember, it's about bringing out the best in the client by letting them draw inwards so they can come to their own solutions to move forward.
Thank you very much, T. And Busola, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is
Do
that
we have...
Busola, Lagos State?
Yes, the only princess.
Yes, she's
okay,
the
thanks,
one.
Princess.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a question here that's, okay, they're asking if the slides will be made available. Yes, we will make the slides available as well as the recording of this session. We will make that available to everyone. Are there any other questions? Anybody there?
If there are no other questions, let me just say this.
I'd like to ask another question, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, my VP. Thank you for today's presentation. Like I said, I'm still a student, a trainee, or I'll just say a student in training. Yes. But then the few times I've tried to coach people, I know that we've been trained on how to be detached, but at times it gets so emotional that I find myself in it, and when I remember, I quickly come out of it. Is that a normal thing, or is it that I still need to keep learning and training and training?
Yeah, well, practice makes perfect. It reminds me of those days when I was leading a team. I was the only man and it was all men. And this guy came this morning and he was talking about his mom, you know, falling ill. And at that time, my mom was ill as well and near dying, you know, and I didn't know when he was crying and I was crying as well. And he was like, no, come on, TA, this is utter rubbish, you know. But I took permission. I excused myself. First of all, I pushed the box of tissue to him and stepped outside the room. And as I went to the ladies, it was like, TA, what's wrong with you? But then I realized, well, there's nothing wrong with me. I was just overwhelmed with the emotion of the moment, simply because what he was going through was similar to what I was going through. But ever since then, I've had similar cases. But rather than cry this time, you know, I just look in a straight, I don't let the emotion overwhelm me anymore. So what am I saying, Busola? We're all going through finishing schools, right? So you're still learning. I mean, we don't get there in one day, trust me. So detached involvement is about learning to, first of all, as you prepare for that coaching session, remind yourself, this is not about me. This is about the client. This is not my story. If they're talking about something that wakes up your emotion, it's not. So just tell yourself in your head, this is not my story, it's about my client. And so how do you do that? It's either you look at them, smile a bit, or just keep a face that is encouraging. It's almost like, well, go ahead, cry more. You know, you're not saying it, but that's how the expression on your face is like, go ahead, cry more. In fact, there was a client once, I had that expression, and after a while, she actually said, I finished crying. Can we go on now? You know, and she wiped her face and she says, honestly, I finished crying. I feel much better, you know, and then we were able to move on. So detached involvement, it's something you learn as you become more experienced about the coach, but a way of learning it is to approach a client and say, it's not me. This session is not about me. It's about them. So detach yourself.
Thank you so much, TA. I feel better.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any other question for TA? Okay. If
so
not,
I have a question for someone. Imagine if you had to sit in front of the beach, like I'm sitting now, having a coaching session in this period of COVID, how would it make you feel? Who would like to answer that?
That's tricky. It's tricky for me as a person because I have.
Oh yeah, you can go on and answer that.
It's tricky in the sense that yes, for some people it will calm them, but for me, it's going to make me panic more because I've had a traumatic experience with the waves.
Oh,
so
hey.
That will just just push me into that panic zone deeply, and yeah, that's it for me. But anything but the waves.
Anything but the waves. So
Yes.
with this, now I know. So you're more of a forest person with animals and creatures and all that. So I'm discovering.
Yeah, I like the sounds of animals. The sounds, basically sounds of the forest, the wind, the trees moving, anything but that waves.
Okay.
The waves is a no-no for me.
If you were my client, I'll be so happy because it's like you've exposed something else to me today beyond Hunter Yinka. And somebody said sleepy. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a delight. But remember, this is the last of this series that we're bringing to you to enable you sharpen the saw as coaches, as you move forward in your coaching engagements or your leadership engagements. Remember, the essence is about saying less, but asking more. But this particular competency number 7, evoking awareness, is very, very important for us in our coaching journey. So please bear this in mind, and let me just use the opportunity to reiterate that anytime we're coaching also, we should bear in mind that we're not just coaching out of the blue or in isolation. A lot of the coaching we do is in line with the competences, the ICF global competences. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best and continue to stay safe and keep well. Say less, ask more.
Thank you very much, TA. Before the announcements, before I hand over for announcements, there's a comment here, it's just for laughs. There's a comment here from Olukemi, and this was in response to if you are in the beach right now, and she said that the salt water will mess up my new wig. Okay.
Oh dear.
Please take off the wig before you go into the water, please.
Okay, wow. I've left the beach, so your wig won't be messed up.
Well, all right, so I'm going to hand over to Janet now for announcements, and
thank you so much once again, Tia. That was very thought-provoking and extremely useful information to each and every one of us as coaches. And talking about coaches, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to remind you about the International Coaching Week, which takes place from the 4th, which is next week, all the way through to the 8th. And of course, ICF Nigeria chapter is very much a part of this program. And believe it or not, ICF Global is celebrating its 25th anniversary. So we as ICF Nigeria, we have a lot in store for you for next week. We would really love you all to register and sign up for all the events we have for next week. We have something really interesting lined up for each and every one of us as coaches. Of course, we expect to invite outsiders as well. Announcements and publicity will take place this week. So please keep your eyes and ears on the ground. And please register for the programs that we have. It is all in aid of us being successful coaches in the future. So ICW, the International Coaching Week, does take place next week. And yes, indeed, we have a lot in store for you. So while we're all at home, this is the time for us to develop ourselves personally and professionally as the best coaches for tomorrow. Thank you all once again. We look forward to you all taking part next week. And yes, have a great evening as we listen to the announcements tonight by our dear president. But be safe, keep safe, and stay safe. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, TA Adora. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Yeoju.